Hi, welcome to Planetary Calendars, Astro Portraits. I'm Ralph Dimichis, one of the calendar's astrologers, along with Lonnie Dimichis. The portrait this week is of Florida, the state. And we're doing it in part because it has just been slammed recently by Ian, the hurricane. And as a result, you can pretty much figure that the chart has been brought very much into focus. And this is actually part of a discussion we've had before about with states and organizations, what time do you use? And for Florida, for instance, they started on March 3rd, 1845, Pisces. The time when people listed is 8:45 a.m. in Tallahassee, Florida. But we've long held, and this is something in mundane astrology, that within the organization you use a noontime chart. Why? Because in the course of the day, this is the point where everything is most open to the light of day. And we've done this with the United States chart, and we've had very good results, as well as many other organizations and states, rather than using specific timed events. Timed events are perfect for a person. You know, we are each very individual, but something like a state is a shared experience. It's a cooperative venture. It has to cover many different dimensions of our lives. Okay, so when we look at this, the difference is on 8:45 a.m. we have the sun at 12 degrees Pisces. That's going to stay the same in the 11th house. And the 11th house is all about networking and about business and about the marketplace. On the 12 p.m. chart, we have, of course, the sun in the 10th house. The 10th house is about standing up. It's about being, official. Politicians typically have their charts with the sun oftentimes in the 10th house or major planets right in the 10th house, close to the midheaven. The rising, of course, we have Taurus for one and Gemini for the other, for 12 noon. In the 8:45 chart, the moon is in the 9th house. Okay? The moon in the 9th house in an earth sign, and it goes back to the Saturn in Aquarius. Okay? So Saturn in Aquarius is a very, very strong position. It makes the moon, which is in a detriment position, it's the sign opposite, it's that extrovert ruler Cancer, it's in the detriment position. It makes it more personal. But in the ninth house is about people coming from afar. Okay? And you could see that. A lot of people have gone there to retire. That's understandable. Where in the noontime chart, it puts the moon in the 8th house in Capricorn. Well, Capricorn is the elder. The moon is the home. The 8th house has to do with transition. And of course, Florida is the site of an amazing number of retirement homes and retirees. It's literally a place, especially for people in the Northeast, to go in the final stage of their life as they transition. And of course, the management of their resources is a very important business in that area. I mean, the retirement funds and such are all funneled through the industry in Florida. So that kind of works. One of the things that really stands out in the chart, and it's a big player for the hurricane, is they have a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Aries. Okay? At the time when Ian was here, Jupiter's at 4 degrees. Let's see, 4 degrees? Or 3 degrees Aries, right? Retrograde. So the Jupiter, that which makes things big, had just had a return. In fact, Jupiter went up to the natal Jupiter, the transiting Jupiter, and then it backed up to Uranus, the planet of disruption, which certainly sounds like a hurricane. Now, in the 8:45 chart, that Jupiter-Uranus is in the 12th house. Okay? In the 12 noon chart, it's in the 11th house of business. Okay? Which shows Florida as being a very, very big, busy business city, but also a very important vacation area. Why? Jupiter is travel. Aries, right? Uranus is the new experience. So think Disney World. Disney World sounds an awful lot like Jupiter, Uranus conjunct in Aries in the 11th house, the house where you bring in money, the area where you earn. And at a 12 noon chart, it puts the part of fortune in that same house at 26 degrees Aries, conjunct the Pluto, which means it has a global draw. Okay? If you go with the 845 chart, all of that stuff moves into the 12th house, but the part of fortune is left out there conjunct the sun, or loosely conjunct the sun at 0 degrees Pisces, which means, that would describe if they made a lot of their money from fishing, maybe. And I'm sure fishing is an industry for them, but I got a funny feeling that Disney World makes more money for them, and and the hotels and the beaches and all of that. Tourism is a much bigger draw for them than fishing, which is mostly fishing to feed the tourists. So that really works for me. The other thing that's kind of interesting is you have a bit of a stellium, and it's a stellium if you include the asteroids, in Aquarius. It's Mercury, which is the exalted position for Mercury in Aquarius, closely conjunct Neptune, which is partile, same degree as Venus. So you have Mercury 27, Neptune, and Venus at 24. Very closely conjunct, okay? So imagination, the arts, communication, all in Aquarius, high technology, okay? Which really describes, like I said, Disney World, among other things. But it also describes Cape Canaveral, doesn't it? Describes Cape Canaveral, as does that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, and these two really work together. And then it has Hygeia, an asteroid, Saturn, Ceres, and Pasadena, also in Aquarius. That's a lot of Aquarius. That's a lot of disruptive energy. That's a lot of innovation. In the 845 chart, it's in the 10th house. Well, is that what it's known for? Is that something that, Florida has invented? No, it hasn't invented. Disney World, for instance, the money didn't come from the people in Florida. It was brought from California. Even in terms of the investments in casinos and things like that, in tourism, a great deal of that was brought from foreign places outside of Florida, people who came there to do things. So in the 12 p.m. chart, all of that stuff ends up in the 9th house. Those people who come from afar to benefit you. So these people came with technology from other places. Even a lot of the early casino or early hotels and such, those investments came out of the Northeast. They weren't investments from local people in Florida investing. That was money that came out of the Northeast invested. That was all the people, the snowbirds, coming down to spend their money there. It causes disruption, but it's also exciting, which is the nature of Aquarius. That really works for me. Okay. Now, Mars. Okay, we really kind of have to look at Mars, and Mars is a big player also in Ian, because it had the state has Mars at Sagittarius, 26 degrees Sagittarius, which is right at the galactic center. During Ian, transiting Mars was opposite it at 20 degrees Gemini, and it was forming part of a big T square, actually a cross between Mars, Mars, Neptune, Mercury, and then the moon going through Sagittarius. So it set off this big T square that, because Florida is a mutable state, it has the sun in a mutable sign. If it has Gemini rising, it set those angles off. And when you set the angles off, there are going to be challenges. Somehow or other, there's going to be challenges. And I would say Ian pretty much challenged all of Florida. I think that it's real significant that the, this Mars opposition up along the ascendant and descendant angles is real important. The black moon Lilith in the natal chart for the noontime chart is at 23 degrees Gemini, and Mars was at 20, which is, it taps into those deep primal energies. I think that the Uranus and the Uranus, the North Node in Uranus, the transiting going up through the 12th house. 12th house has a lot to do with beaches. Uranus and Taurus disruption. I mean, their coastline has just been devastated. There's just so many places where the angles, these mutable angles in the chart, get very much triggered. And like I said, something like a major storm like this, that we're talking, 30, 40, 50, $60 billion worth of damage to their economy, is significant, and it brings really into focus, how is this state functioning? And I think that's why the noontime chart is very much proven by the incursion of Ian and the destruction that it wrought. So that is Florida. Wishing them the best of luck in recovering. Come see us on Tuesdays and on Fridays at Planetary Calendar Astrology.com. If you subscribe and push the little red bell, you'll get reminded when the portraits and the forecast come up. We do the forecast for Friday for the coming week. You can also go to planetarycalendar.com and you can find your planetary calendars because you want to know what's going on. Until next time, be well.